Alright, so I just did about, I don't know, 5 minutes of recording and nothing even got captured. So let's redo this here. This is going to be kind of a longer video because I'm going to actually explain everything I do in this video when tying a woolly bugger. This time I'm going to do black. It's going to be black with sparkles and everything's going to be black. So what I do is I grab a size 14 hook. Excuse me, a size 4 hook, streamer hook. And this is what they look like right out of the package. Nothing special. But as you can tell, it's got that barb there. Okay? Now what I like to do is I like to put my hook in the vise and just give it a couple presses right there on that barb, and what that does is that flattens that barb out. Okay? And what the barb is really meant for is to keep your fish on so it's harder for them to shake off. But what I don't like about the barbs is it takes a little more force to get the hook out of the fish, and that makes for less time that the fish is actually in the water. So anyway, that's a 5/32 bead. Let me show you here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but there, probably not. Got big old finger, sorry. So there's a small hole in the bead. If you flip that around, there is a large hole in the bead. What you want to do is you want to take the point of the hook and you want to slide the small end of the bead through that hook. Okay? Then I'll take some 20 thousandths lead wire. This is just going to help the bugger sink. Obviously, you can use floating line while fishing these buggers. In lake fishing, stuff like that, I like to use sinking line. Just gets it down to the bottom faster, and you don't have to worry about not being able to get deep enough. So I like to use about 16 wraps of that, and then I like to slide that right up. That's probably a little more than 16, but that's okay. And I like to slide them lead wraps right up to the bead. And what that does is when you're stripping your bug in, as you strip, the bug comes up. And as you're just stationary, the tip of the bug will sink. So the whole time you're doing that, your tail, which is the marabou, is just bouncing in the water, and it creates lots of good movement. So now I'm going to tie on my, get my thread tied on here, which I'm going to start right behind the lead wraps. I'm just going to get my thread started. I'm going to clip my excess, and then I'm just going to wrap all the way back to about the bend of the hook. Okay. Then I'm going to take my marabou. This is a full marabou feather. Obviously we're not going to use the whole feather, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure. But before I measure, I like to take my fingers and I like to slick this marabou back. It makes it a little easier to handle, and you can do that by wetting your fingers, just with your tongue or whatever. See that? And that cleans up nice. You can slick that back. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a measurement, and I'm going to measure from the eye of the hook And as you can see, it goes slightly past the bend of the hook, and that's how I like them, because it gives that tail a lot of nice movement right there. Now I'm not going to get too crazy with tying in this tail. I'm going to give some good solid wraps, because when we go to put our body material on, sorry, my flight time table's a mess. When we go to put this body material on, you don't want this to be a big bulge, so then the back of the body looks like a big bulge and then it flattens it out. So just give it a couple good wraps on there, and then you're going to cut this excess. Okay. Now you're just going to capture all those loose fibers, and then I'm going to come up to just before the wraps of the lead wire. And I'm going to take my body material. I think it's called chenille. I'm not 100% sure. Pretty sure it's called chenille. And I'm going to wrap that in. And then I'm going to wrap it back forward. Just get that nice and trapped. And then we're going to come back. Now yesterday in the video I was using silver wire. Today I'm going to be using copper wire. And this is actually some pretty thin stuff as well. If you remember or watched the video yesterday, it was really thin wire, and the only purpose really that wire had was to capture my hackle, which I will show you in just a minute. But I'm going to tie this in. And I'm going to tie it in. I'm going to come all the way back to where I tied in the marabou tail. And I'm going to wrap all the way forward to the bead of the hook. Okay? Now, I'm going to take my body material. I'm going to get all the fibers from the marabou tail out. And I'm just going to start wrapping forward. They make this stuff in sparkly colors and make it more of like a grizzly style, which is a just black and whatever color. I'll show you that here in just a minute once I get this tied off. They make this in all kinds of different colors to make it imitate a lot of different things. So as you can see, they got this color. This is just yellow and brown, but it's like a striped brown. Yeah, so you can just about imitate anything you want with these buggers. Then I'm going to take some black hackle, just straight black hackle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hackle and I'm going to measure. And that looks really nice, just like that. I'm going to measure how tall the hackle sits. So when I wrap it, it doesn't exceed that. And I really like that, so I'm going to use this piece. Now, when you pluck your hackle, you can see all these loose, or not loose, but puffy fibers. You want to strip those right off. Okay. Some of them are kind of stubborn. And then what I like to do is I just like to clip this. Leave about yay much stem sticking out. And then you're going to find whatever side is the shiniest, which it looks to me like this side. And then you're just going to hold this about horizontal with the hook shank. And you're just going to tie in that hackle. clip that end off there. And then when you go to wrap, for some reason this hackle, the stem's a little bigger, so it takes a wrap or two to actually get your hackle to lay out like you want it. So I'm going to just start like this. I'm going to do one wrap, then I'm going to start spiraling back. All the way to the end of the body material. Then I'm going to take my copper wire and I'm going to trap that tag end of the hackle just like that. And then once you get that trapped, go ahead and let go. It's not going to go anywhere. And then I'm going to do some wiggly movements so I don't trap any of them hackle fibers. And I'm just going to move forward with it. You can kind of see this copper wire, and it kind of makes it look like a rib. But for the most part, all I'm using this wire for is to trap my hackle fibers. It makes the hackle very, very durable. It makes the whole fly very durable. And I'm going to come all the way to the bead of the hook, just like that. I'm going to capture that wire. And then I'm just going to snip the wire off. And while I'm here with my scissors, I'm going to snip this tag end of the hackle off. And I'm going to smooth those back just to make sure all the hackle fibers have loosened up, spread apart. And then I'm going to grab these fibers, slick them all back with my fingers, and I'm going to finish giving this a couple more wraps at the bead. Then I'm going to take my whip finishing tool. This is called a whip finisher. You take your curved end here, you put that right on the thread. You take this little end here with the divot in it, you come down and you basically just roll your tool. Okay, and then you make a triangle. Now what you're going to do is you're going to go right over the top, right behind the bead, and you're going to wrap it about 4 times. And then you pull this up tight. Then you can remove it from the thread. Just pull that tight, break that off, or you can snip it, whatever you prefer. And that locks down your thread wraps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of come in here, and I see some fibers that I don't really like. I'm just going to snip those out of the road. Just like that. Maybe take that little fiber there. Get that out of there, just like that. Then I'm going to take some Loon Outdoors hard head, clear head cement. And this will just make it so it's almost like a, not a super glue, but it's a glue to lock down these thread wraps. And I'm just going to put a pretty good amount right there on the thread wraps and the bead. And then that is another woolly bugger, but a black one. If you like this video or the video from yesterday, let me know. And, you know, maybe we can start tying up some different bugs, some grasshoppers, some foam hoppers, some parachute hoppers, some midges, elk hair caddises, any of those kinds of bugs that you guys want to learn how to tie, or just see the way I like to tie them, let me know. But like I said earlier in the last video, I've got many different fish on woollybuggers. Catfish, bluegill, crappie, bass, trout, wipers, you name it. I've pretty much caught them on a woolybugger. And these are really fun to tie and really fun to fish. And once you get the hang of it, they're pretty easy to knock out, you know, half a dozen of them. So anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you guys want to see next, and we'll go from there. Thank you.